Hello, whisperers. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy tonight's tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps more than you know. Now, dim the lights, and let's begin tonight's story.
Interview recording, case file into the dark. Classified. This is Investigator Anthony Rollins, Department of Parapsychological Review. State your name for the record.
Darren Cole, lead investigator, Into the Dark Productions.
You've refused media contact for 8 months. Why speak now?
Because people need to know what happens when you film a place that doesn't want to be seen, and because I need someone to understand why I can't delete the files. The Røgen Bunker sits on a cliff face above the North Sea, 40 kilometers north of a town whose name I've asked you not to record. It was built in 1943 by the Wehrmacht as a communications relay. In 1945, the Allies sealed it. In 2019, it was forgotten. We arrived at sunset, myself, Lena Morvant, our producer, and Ivo Rask, camera operator. The air smelled like rust and ozone. Not electricity, something older, something burned. The entrance was a steel door, 6 inches thick, set into concrete that had gone gray and soft. The padlock was still there, original from '45, the key long since lost to whoever had ordered the sealing. We had permits, we had bolt cutters. We had 2 full days before the caretaker would expect us back. Ivo set up the tripod first. 3 red Komodo cameras on locked mounts, fed through isolated servers. Lena ran the audio, dual-channel wireless mics clipped to our vests, a central recorder. I had thermal, EMF, atmospheric pressure monitors, all logging to internal drives. This wasn't our first investigation. We were thorough. The door opened easier than it should have. Inside, the temperature was exactly 8 degrees Celsius. The humidity was at 94%. The air tasted like metal and something else, something almost sweet, like fruit left too long in the sun. Condensation beaded on every surface, gathering in the grooves of the concrete floor like tears. The bunker's main corridor stretched about 40 meters, lined with lockers on the left side and what looked like old communication equipment on the right. Radio sets with vacuum tubes the size of beer cans, patchboards gone green with corrosion. Emergency lighting still worked, barely. Strips of LEDs glowed a sickly sodium vapor yellow. The acoustics were wrong. Our footsteps didn't echo so much as they moved, sound traveling down the corridor and disappearing like water down a drain. Temperature stable, I said into my lapel mic. Baseline readings normal. No immediate dash. Knock. 3 measured raps from deeper in the bunker. I looked at Ivo. His hand was still on the camera. Lena's jaw had tightened. Could be settling, Ivo said. Concrete shifts. Old place like this. Knock, knock, knock. Deliberate this time. Evenly spaced. Almost conversational. Did you hear that? Lena's voice was steady, but her hand had moved to the audio recorder, checking levels. Yeah, I said. Let's map the main chamber first. Ivo, Start your baseline walk. I want every wall, every corner, full 360 degrees. This is what professionalism looks like when your chest is tight and your mouth has gone dry. We moved deeper. The main chamber was wider than I expected, maybe 12 meters across, maybe 15 long. It had been the nerve center. A large board dominated the far wall, some kind of tactical display, its surface cracked and covered in a thin film of ice. Strange, given the temperature was above freezing. The ice formed patterns, long, deliberate streaks, as if something had been dragged across it repeatedly. Evo's camera light swept across the map board. In the frozen reflection, for just a moment, I saw a figure standing behind him. Not beside him, behind him, in the reflection, standing closer than any of us were to each other. I looked around. Nothing, just the three of us and the humming of equipment. Evo, do you? I saw it, he said quietly. His voice was different now, smaller. Lena had moved closer to us, her shoulders raised. What did you see? Reflection, I said. In the ice. There's something. Knock, knock, knock. From the map board itself, 3 impacts, hard enough to crack the remaining intact corners of glass. The figure in the reflection was still there. I could see its outline now, shoulders too wide, head tilted at an angle that didn't match any human anatomy. It was looking at Ivo's back, looking at him like it recognized him. We're leaving, Lena said. No, I said, and I don't know why. Some part of me needed to understand what we were seeing. Some part of me needed to believe in what we were seeing. This is why we came. Evo, keep rolling. Full spectrum. We had a wedge holding the door open. It was a simple thing. A rubber doorstop, yellow and worn. We jammed it in about an hour ago, part of standard protocol. Dead man's switch. If something happened, we'd want an exit. It skipped free, 3 feet into the air, rotating slowly, and came to rest 20 meters back down the corridor. The sound followed a moment later, a metallic click. The door sealing shut. Then from the corridor, the answer to my unfinished sentence. Knock. 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 What happened next happened very quickly. Evo moved toward the door, instinct overriding everything. I grabbed his shoulder. The secondary exit, northeast corridor, it's locked, Evo said. His eyes were still on the map board, on the reflection that was no longer a reflection. It was standing in front of us now. I could smell ozone and something else, burnt hair, charred fabric. Lena was backing toward the corridor we'd come from. Darren, we need to... The PA system crackled to life. It had been dead for 75 years, corroded and useless. It shouldn't have been able to make any sound at all. But it did. And through the static came a voice, clear and precise, speaking in German. Du kommst hier nie wieder raus. The words were spoken by something that had learned them in 1943, something that had rehearsed them in the dark for 8 decades. The lights began to strobe, not randomly, in sync with something, a rhythm like a metronome, or like footsteps, boots, heavy military boots, marching through the bunker's passages. We could hear them now, echoing from every corridor, every chamber, coming from everywhere and nowhere. "Run," I said. We took off. The corridors weren't where we left them. I knew this bunker's layout. I'd studied the architectural drawings for 3 months. 40 meters, T-junction, north corridor led to the auxiliary exit. South led to storage. We should have turned left, but the junction wasn't there. Instead, the corridor extended another 30 meters, and at the end of it was a door we hadn't seen before. Behind us, the boots were getting closer, and now there were voices mixed in with them. Dozens of them singing something in German, their words overlapping into white noise. Ivo was in front. He reached for the door handle. Something grabbed him. Not a hand, something massive and invisible, a force that seized him by the shoulders and lifted him 3 feet off the ground. His camera flew from his grip, skittered across the floor, its lens cracking. He screamed once high and sharp, and then the sound became something else. The wet, crushing sound of bone giving way under immense pressure. His body hit the wall at an angle that bodies shouldn't hit walls. He stayed there, suspended for maybe 2 seconds, suspended in the impact, and then dropped. The boots were louder now. The singing had resolved into words. "Du wirst diesen Ort nie verlassen. Du wirst diesen Ort nie verlassen." The storage chamber was through a side door. We found it by accident, stumbling blind in the strobing lights. Long room, maybe 50 meters, lined with metal lockers on both sides. The temperature dropped as soon as we entered. I could see my breath. Lena was sobbing now, not crying. That breathless, wordless sound people make when their mind is trying to process something it can't. "The emergency exit," I said. "It has to be..." The lockers began to rattle, all of them at once, not in sequence, but as one unified percussion, loud enough to trigger the ringing in my ears. The doors were bowing outward, like something massive was pressing against them from inside. One opened. Out of the darkness inside stepped a figure in Wehrmacht uniform. Its face was melted. The flesh had run like wax, pooling around the collar of its jacket. It wore a gas mask, or what remained of one, fused to the ruined tissue beneath. Where its eyes should have been were just gaps, and from those gaps poured steam, like the thing inside it was still burning. It looked at Lena. "Lena, move," I said, but she was frozen. Everyone freezes in the moment when your amygdala hijacks your motor cortex. Everyone freezes. The figure moved with an unnatural fluidity, like it wasn't bound by the same physics as the rest of us. It closed the distance, maybe 5 meters. In time, I would have measured in freeze frames. It reached for her with hands that looked like burnt leather wrapped around wire, and it pulled. She was jerked backward with such force that she stumbled, and the thing caught her mid-fall. Its grip on her arm left frostbite the color of deep bruises. She started to scream, but her scream cut off when something, a force I couldn't see, clamped down on her chest. The thing held her, and something else squeezed. She made a sound like wood being split, like something structural breaking. Her eyes went wide and she looked at me, not in terror but in betrayal, like I'd promised her something I couldn't deliver. The German over the PA had become almost rhythmic now, a chant. Du wirst diesen Ort nie verlassen. Du wirst diesen Ort nie verlassen. The figure tilted its melted face toward me. From the void where its mouth should have been came words. Ihr werdet diesen Ort niemals verlassen. Lena stopped moving. The figure released her, and she collapsed like something boneless. The burnt soldier turned its attention back to me, and I realized something crucial. It was smiling. There was no face left to smile with, but it was smiling. I ran. The corridor I found myself in was lined with dormitory bunks, rotted mattresses still on the frames, stains on the fabric I didn't want to identify. Behind me, the marching boots echoed, but it was different now. They were in rhythm with my footsteps. When I ran faster, they ran faster. When I stumbled and slowed, they slowed. The bunker was toying with me. From the PA, Darren Cole. My name, said in a voice I almost recognized. My voice maybe, but stretched and reversed and wrong. Darren Cole. Darren Cole. Darren Cole. It was calling to me like it was looking for me. Like we had an appointment. The emergency hatch was in a maintenance chamber at the bunker's northeast edge. I'd memorized its location from the blueprints, but in the strobing lights and the endless corridors, everything had started to look the same. Steel doors that led to steel chambers that led back to the storage room I'd just fled. At one point, I could have sworn I turned a corner and ended up exactly where I'd started, staring at Lena's body. Except it wasn't Lena anymore. She was standing when I came back around, just standing there in the middle of the storage chamber, her head cocked at that same unnatural angle. Her skin had taken on a grayish cast, and her breathing, I could hear it from 3 meters away, was shallow and wrong, like something mechanical struggling with the motions. Darren, she said. Her voice was her voice, but underneath it was another voice, older, cut with an accent from a language that died in the ashes of 1945. Darren, why did you come here? I didn't answer. I just kept moving. The voices in the PA system had multiplied. There were dozens of them now, maybe hundreds, all saying the same phrase in overlapping, out-of-sync layers. Du wirst diesen Ort nie verlassen. They were chasing me through the corridors, around corners, into chambers I'd never seen before, past equipment that had been left exactly where it was 75 years ago. And then I understood something. The ghosts, if that's what they were reacting to the cameras. Every time I passed one of Evo's camera mounts, the voices would pause, just for a second, like they were distracted, like they were looking at the red tally light. It It was then that I realized Evo's body was still in the corridor, standing exactly where it had fallen, eyes open, camera light blinking red. The body wasn't moving, but the light was on. The light was still recording. I ripped one of Evo's backup cameras from my bag. I still had 4 functioning units, waterproofed, ruggedized, and built to run on their own. I found the PA control room, or what remained of it, and I set them up. I pointed them at the main corridors. I turned on every light, every monitor, every screen that still had power. The bunker flooded with overlapping video feeds. The chambers became a hall of mirrors, the ghosts caught between flashes, disoriented, pressed against the walls by the sudden intensity of being seen from multiple angles. The chanting stopped. I turned on Lena's audio recorder, cranked the volume to maximum, and played back our own voices, our footsteps, our conversation, our breathing, and broadcast it through every speaker in the facility. The confusion bought me time. The maintenance chamber was where the blueprint said it would be. The hatch was smaller than I expected, a square opening maybe 2 feet across, with a ladder leading up into darkness. The hinges were rusted but functional. I grabbed the frame and pulled myself up, my arms shaking so badly I could barely grip the rungs. Below me, I could hear the voices resolving again. The ghosts were adapting. They were learning to ignore the cameras. Halfway up the shaft, I felt something grab my ankle. Cold, wet, impossibly strong. I kicked, and there was a sound like ice cracking. The grip loosened but didn't release. I pulled myself up harder, my muscles tearing under the strain. The cold was spreading up my leg, frostbite forming in the shape of fingers. The hatch. I could see it above me now. A darker square against dark sky. The handle was stuck with rust and salt. I reached with one free hand and pushed. Something grabbed my other ankle. I screamed and shoved harder. The hatch gave with a sound like a gunshot. Cold air, actual air, air that didn't smell like burning in decades, rushed down on me. I pulled myself threw my weight toward the opening, and collapsed onto concrete and grass and the real world. Behind me, from the shaft, came the sound of hands on the metal ladder, the sound of something trying to follow. I didn't look back. I just crawled until the bunker entrance was behind me, until I reached the fence line, until I couldn't hear anything but the wind and my own broken breathing. The bunker went silent. And then from the shaft below, one final knock. 3 measured raps, conversational, patient. Like it was asking a question I would spend the rest of my life trying to answer.
And the footage.
Everything survived. 3 camera hard drives, the backup recorder, Ivo's equipment, all intact. Hours of footage.
You've stated that you didn't air any of this material. Why?
2 people died in that bunker, Ivo Rask and Lena Morvant. Their bodies were never recovered, and the moment that became public knowledge, all hell would break loose.
Why?
Because the second footage of paranormal activity causing deaths hits the internet, that bunker becomes a destination. Ghost hunters, daredevils, true crime podcasters, people wanting to go down there and challenge whatever killed them. we'd be inviting people to die.
So the decision to suppress the material was
Not a decision, an order, and it was the right call. The site was sealed, permits were denied, and we were asked to keep silent, which we did, which I'm still doing technically.
you're breaking that agreement now.
Yes, because it's still happening. People still try to get in. 3 separate breach attempts in the last 2 years. Search and rescue has found equipment abandoned outside the entrance. And last month, someone managed to get inside. We don't know who, but thermal imaging picked up movement in the bunker for 6 hours and then nothing.
And you believe
I believe that whatever is in there is still hungry. And I believe that Ivo and Lena are still in there. And they're not alone anymore. The footage shows enough to know that something in that bunker doesn't want to be forgotten. It doesn't want to be left alone.
Do you regret going?
Every day. But I'd regret it more if I let someone else go inside, thinking they'd be the one to survive it.
End recording. Note: all surviving footage from the Røgen Bunker has been classified and sealed. No investigation team has requested access to the site since 2019. All permit requests for the location have been denied.